Hari Om Narayana. Frustrations to Sadhguru Jnanananda, to my own personal guru, with whom I had the privilege of spending many years, Swami Shrivananda, Swami Sri Hari Prasad, and all the people present here for appreciation. It's always an honor to be invited to speak. My cousin often says, we will pay you to shut up at home, right? Because one tends to talk too much. But when somebody puts a value to what you say and invites you, I think it's a great privilege, it's an honor, and always it is with a lot of humility when it comes from a spiritual sphere. In fact, apart from Swamiji sitting on our dais, was another Karma Yogi on my other side, Shri Ramakrishnan Ji, whom I consider the great Karma Yogi. He was very close to Swami Chinmayananda also. And he used to come for the lectures, and I was a young volunteer at that time. I still am young, and so is he, because we are spiritually connected. So the good thing about life is you learn to move from Akārya to Kārya. But by the time you are ready, there's very little life left. If you're able to pass it on to other people and tell them that this is the path, you are lucky. You know, I always say that when I was 20 years old, I used to watch people bring up children. And I had 6 different theories how to bring up children. Today I have 6 children, but no more theories. But don't look at me like that. I have only one daughter. Right? What I'm trying to drive home is, even philosophy is all about theory, about concepts, which you have to try out and practice. And from the preceptor, we learn, but unless we become practitioners, it becomes a very futile journey in, in philosophy. So I think today we are here to talk about a very fascinating subject. As the governor mentioned yesterday, so many speakers have said, we know about, when you know the Gita, you know about the Kārya and Akārya as words. But when you focus the microscope or the magnifying glass on 2 words, then it really adds a lot of dimension to the word. And according to me, there are 2 other words which are very important in the study of the scripture. And that likens very much to these 2 words, Shreyas and prayer. And very often we don't realize that we practice this all our lives. Shreyas, when we work hard for a long-term happiness in life, and we put in a lot of effort to have a fulfilling life. And prayers when we want pleasure, very simple. Right? We all have gone through both. Sometimes we want an ice cream, we want to see a film as soon as it is released. And sometimes the mind gets pushed to do that. And we know that it is prayer. And when you fight that, sometimes the doubt comes in your mind. Should you have done it at least for your children? Should you have gone for the movie? Okay, you think you are spiritual, you think you are, and you want to avoid a movie. But your child and your wife wants to see the movie. Now, do you play along because it is a big world and it's all a game you're playing? Do you normally align with it and go with it? Do you allow that to leave a residue in your mind so that it affects you? Or do you just go through the process? That is something that we have to look at. And there are some people, not to take a decision is also a decision. Right? So some people push. Procrastination is a habit that comes from pushing what you need to do because you are afraid to do it. We even have a prime minister, one of the best politicians we have had in our country, polyglot, who knew many languages, very refined person, who I'm talking about, Narasimha Rao Ji. Right? And he developed a reputation for a person who didn't want to take decisions, but actually he was taking decisions. And he was deciding not to decide. And he was deciding that it need not be done now. And those are things that we have to face. When you do it with faith and with courage, then it is Kārya. But when you do it out of fear and running away from the problem, then it becomes Akārya. So it is not in the doing that there is a problem, it is in the attitude. And that is the entire premise on which my talk is going to be. The choice is yours, meaning the choice is ours as a world, because we are creating you. Every little child we are creating, as my the speaker preceding me mentioned, right from your childhood, we develop, a personality. And in that, sometimes we blame the world that, we were treated badly, that's why we became what we are. The world blames us. You didn't do what you should have done, right? The world, I mean, it always says the market is there. It's up to you to buy it. It's up to you not to buy it. But it is a consumer world. So we have to believe in both. And therefore, I said, my topic, and I'm very happy Swamiji chose this topic when I presented it. The choice is ours, but actually the choice is yours. Each one of us should look within to see why we are bickering on certain decisions we take. So actually, I would say this is a conference on ethics and morality, more than just about taking decisions. It's about being ethical. It's about creating a very ethical world where your decisions don't align or don't make you align with the wrong force. If you can take that, you are a successful person. So I don't know how this goes. I'm going to try that.
Yes.
Yeah. I hope it works. Yes. So I want to tell you, according to me, there are 3 pillars of learning which goes on endlessly in our life. Right? We probably are not aware. And in fact, sorry if I'm being a little irreverent, right? But I believe I'm going to give you a very practical example of a practicing professional or a manager. I speak from my experience as a management trainer and coach with many companies. And when we talk to young managers, they come to realize that at the end of our workshop, at least, we hope they realize there are 3 things that are going on constantly in our mind that we learn from. One is about ourselves. Are we aware of ourselves? So self-awareness. The second thing is our social awareness. Do we know where we are working, what we are doing, who we are meeting, right? Socially, what is the society we are creating? And the third most important thing is situational awareness. In each situation, I should be able to take the right decision. The situations change. And today it's a very convenient argument. Whenever you ask somebody, do you think this is right or wrong? It depends. That's the standard answer. Right? Nobody wants to say it is right or wrong. They say it depends. Do you do that? Yes, it depends. So we are aware that situations change, and we cannot judge people by the decisions they have taken in a particular situation. This may change next time. And I use Swami Chinmayananda as my personal model because I was lucky to live with him, to learn from him, and to serve him at his feet for many years. And Swamiji knows that, so that's one of the reasons we have a strong bond between us. And I found that even as a sannyasi, he practiced many things that we householders should learn from such people, some great rishi. The first was he used something called, I don't think you can see the word, grooming. I think we choose the wrong color. So grooming is about taking care of yourself. They call it self-care today, right? Do you take care of yourself? Yoga is one example. Dressing, so many things are important. I mean, you need not wear the most expensive clothes in town. You can certainly afford to wear the cleanest clothes in town. If you have to wear them, they have to be clean. So shaucham, all of that, all the 22 values, amanutvam, madambatvam, all of those values are important if you go into them personally. That is for personal grooming. And the third one, of course, for situational grooming, we want the proper communication. The art of right contact with people and situations. Are you able to communicate what you want, and are you able to understand what people are trying to communicate with you? So if you do that, you probably will get your decision right. I had a very powerful program on decision making when I started out. Nobody joined because they couldn't decide whether they should attend. Right? Because the people who needed it couldn't decide, but those who could decide didn't need the program. Right? So they never attended. So this is what happens when you don't communicate the right things to right people. And again, going back to the Bhagavad Gita, every action of yours, every karma of yours is bound by 3 factors. Prayatnam, you have to put in the effort. Kala, it has to be at the right time. Right? You almost every time you write your exam, and when you come home after the examination, all the answers come to your mind because your mind is stress-free, which you learned the previous day, but you didn't remember during the exam. And suddenly it's a wrong time to remember all your answers. So Kalam, Prayatnam, Kalam, and Devam. Devam we think is God, and we of course should pray for our own. I mean, we should worship for our own growth. But Devam actually is another word for circumstances. If you get the right, circumstances, if all the things fall into place, then you say, "Oh, God is with me." But when they don't, you say, "Oh, God is against me." But God is neutral, right? It is up to you to decide that the circumstances were not right. So if they come together, then you have what we see there, the ECG, etiquette, grooming, and communication. If you get all of that right, then you know how your heart beats, right? Normal ECG. Of course, if it goes up and down, you know something is wrong. So you should know exactly how much you are connected to your decision making. Sometimes your pulse rate goes up when you take decisions under stress. Very ordinary for all of us. When we have to decide something, if your heart starts pounding, if you put, as somebody said earlier, and the governor mentioned it yesterday, never put too much stress on the results of what you do. Right? And the MS Dhoni is the best example as a cricketer. He keeps saying, don't worry about the result, focus on the process. Keep a cool head, take the decision. If it's right, you win. Otherwise, go back and learn what you could have done better. Don't worry too much about the result. And that itself is a great example of nishkama karma. Right? If you take the desire out of the equation, right? Because the desire for the result is what is destroying your potential. So if you remove that, automatically you're able to focus better, act better. And that is why I think, I just thought this was really your, I don't know why it was moved. So that is what I call the ABC of ECG. What is ECG? Etiquette, right? What do you expect from other people? How we live in society? That is etiquette. Communication, how do you act in a situation? How do you behave in a situation? And of course, grooming, how do you take care of yourself so that you can value the life in you till the very end, right? You should take care of yourself simply because self-care is the highest form, or rather discipline is the highest form of self-care. If you really care for yourself, be disciplined, right? And that is why, again, we know yoga is important. So I like to quote, again, Swami Chidananda very often, we are not at war, and yet we are not out of war. We are not in famine, but the world is famished. There is peace, and yet we are torn into pieces. There is material prosperity all around, but there is spiritual poverty that we want. I'm sure all of you realize when we grow spiritually, when we use the wealth we have generated much better. But when we don't grow spiritually, even the wealth we have is a waste for the world, because some of us don't even know how much wealth we have in our family. What will happen to it when we die? We don't want to take those decisions now, thinking that, our children, how can we talk about death? But there are families all over the world which plan even their own end very peacefully. And they do it so with so much dignity that the whole family feels it's a celebration of a life rather than a loss of a life. So that is how we should look at spiritual, growth and prosperity. So this hoarding that happens in our mind from our childhood is what really creates a problem. Material hoarding and mental hoarding. And that leads, it becomes a habit. And then it is daunting to clear. Later, you can't even think about clearing up your mind because it's got so much dirt in it. We all have a bath every day, hopefully, right? Most of us have water problems, but hopefully we do. But very few of us bathe our minds every day. Very few of us delete what is unnecessary, like we delete on the mobile, we don't delete it from our mind. Oh, we still carry it over, he talked to me like that, how dare he talk to me? There's no point, because you are starting a new day every morning, you start with a fresh slate, as again was mentioned earlier. So all I can say at the end is we come and we go, but the world goes on. You don't have a choice, right? The only thing that we have, we can choose to use this world to either devolve, revolve, or evolve. Now that choice is ours. That is what I meant when I said the choice is yours. Right? Do you want to evolve into a better person? It's in our hands. But if you want to revolve, you keep saying, I'm doing so much, but I'm not feeling peace of mind. I go to the temple every day, but I don't get any peace of mind. I've done whatever my children want, but I'm not happy. They're not taking care of me. That means I'm just revolving around the same problem. I'm not moving. And of course, the worst is when I get angry and I do all. I lose my self-respect. People shout. At the end, I feel guilty. I feel ashamed. I feel so many emotions that I don't need to feel. Simply because I don't want to evolve into a better person. The other two options are really no option. Unfortunately, revolving and devolving are not options, but we practice it on a daily basis. So can we get out of that? Swami Chinmananda came out with the BMI chart. I'm sure many of us remember that. And I think that is why I mentioned if you can see yourself as three personalities: your body, your mind, and your intellect, and how to deal with it, you would feel a lot more courage when you are facing the world, because the body has its problems, the mind has its problems, and of course the head, the heart, and the hand have to combine. So this is where I can share this. Somebody is trying to take a picture. I'll share it with anybody who wants it. I'll leave it with Shyam. So what do we need at the end? More enthusiasm to live. I'd like to actually ask a question. How many feel that sometimes we lack enthusiasm on a daily basis? Obviously, spiritual seekers will. Now, that is the first time that it is more Akārya than Kārya. People who go to the temple, do their prayers every day, and still worry that their daughter is not married, still worry that their son might not get. You don't really trust God. You don't come here and fall at their feet and still go back wondering why my daughter is not getting married. You really have to let go and say, you will take care of it. It changed my life when I did that. When the master was with me, I never had the guts to do all of this. Today, now it makes sense, looking back, the squares are joining, and then you say, oh, they are getting connected, and you say, oh, this is what he meant when he said this. So this is the big change. How many feel that we need to be more self-aware? I'd like your hands up, because very often it's the mind that thinks that I know me, right? And you have to really let go, and it's like a pole vault. If you're hanging on to the pole, you will never cross. If you want to cross, you have to let go of the pole. So where does that happen is where you are actually seeking God. Yes, I'm not going into all of this, but I would have liked a little more time to go into it. But basically, your self is about working more on your strengths and working on removing your weaknesses. And of course, your strengths become your opportunities and your weaknesses become your threat. So it's as simple as that. If you make a matrix of all your problems, almost all of us can solve them on a daily basis. But the point is, we complicate them, we bring in a lot of emotion into it, and we can't take decisions. So those who are good at something, you know what you're doing, and you can do it better. Let me just skip through these slides and come to the end. If you want, I can always share them with you through Shyam or anybody. I'll leave it with Swamiji. But what I think we need to look, and I think the governor mentioned this yesterday, is that we need a win-win world. That is what I meant by Kārya. If I win and the world wins, if I win and everyone else wins, then it's a Kārya. Akārya is when I think I am winning, and that is what I call there. I'll have to remove where I should use that, I think, Shyam. I got it. I figured that. And now pointing to the wrong end. He actually showed us, and I'm still on this that. So what we can try to be is more assertive. Right? How many feel that's an area you will work on? A little more assertiveness in your own personal life, right? I'm sure it is true for many of us. What about, a win-lose world? Sometimes you are aggressive because you respect yourself more than you respect others, right? Or you are submissive. If you're married, I don't need to explain, right? Most of the time, you're either giving up or letting the other person give up for us. So it is a question of respecting yourself and respecting others, and not respecting the other. But I think there's a fourth corner that I talk about, and that is the sad part in most of our relationships. That there is at least one or two relationships in your life that are lose-lose. Right? You will go down, but you will put the other man down. You're so upset by that person that right? That kind of attitude is really the antagonistic attitude that we call. And I think We call it antagonism. Yeah. So that's a loose. Now, having said all this, I'm sure she's staring at me very carefully. I'll give you just two. So this is what I call the three attitudes, the three qualities that I mentioned: self-awareness, enthusiasm, and assertiveness. It's a model that we at Mantra are spreading in the corporate world. We call it the C, because the C is unexpected. It keeps talking about there's good weather, bad weather, and our life is also like that. Pretty much, it's like the sea. So this is why we thought these three qualities are all that we need. And so, like Swami Vivekananda said, heart is a very good fertilizer. Anything we plant, love, hate, fear, hope, revenge, jealousy, surely grows and bears fruit. Right? So if you really want a positive world, then you have to start putting seeds, not weeds. And just a bit of Japanese wisdom that I like a lot. If it's not yours, don't take it. If it's not right, don't do it. If it's not true, don't say it. And if you don't know, just be quiet. Why talk about it? So I think it's as simple as that. And it's not that all Japanese are like that, but the fact is they want to be like that. And that is what matters. All of us must want to be better people. All our wisdom traditions have the perfect answers. We don't follow them. There are two types of happiness, even according to Aristotle, right? Hedonia, which we all know. We use the word hedonistic. He's hedonistic, right? We want pleasure. We want power. We want narcissism. We want to feel we are the greatest in the world. But the better part is a lesser known word called you. Yes, if you can read it from there, I don't think so. You don't know, eudaimonia. Okay, eudaimonia. Eudaimonia is what we call shreya. They have long-term happiness. And that is why there are some steps that you can take, simple steps that you can take towards deep-rooted happiness in your life, which all points out to Kārya, not Akārya. So I would end by saying that what are the 5 things that we need to change? Okay. Okay. This one, sorry. That's my last line. So what we really need to do is an MBA, mind-body alignment. Okay, and what does that MBA do? It helps you to get an MBA managed by anticipation. So how do you manage by anticipation? Just align your mind and body first. And who can align that? Your head can, the intellect. So in the BMI, the B and the M should come under the control of the I. And that would come from the vasanas you have, which we call the values in life. That ultimately teaches you to reach and respect life. Once you respect life, then you realize that we should move from Akārya to Kārya, from adharma to dharma, from prayer to shreya. I mentioned that. These two caught by fancy, from harm to harmony. Stop harming yourself and others, move to more towards harmony, and that would be more Kārya. And from convenience to correctness. A lot of us break rules just for convenience. We take the wrong road, we cut across signals, we push people away simply because it's convenient for us. And that takes us from instinct to intuition. A quiet mind moves away from the instinct that we were born with to a level of intuition where we can actually know what we are doing and do it well. So the last slide is reminded me of what Sanjaya said at the end of the Bhagavad Gita. If you go to chapter 18, verse 78, whatever, you know that we all know this verse because we always talk about Yogeshwara Krishna, right? It's very simple to remember that wherever there is Krishna, right, the master of mystic, and wherever there is Arjuna, the supreme archer, they can only be opulent, victory, extraordinary power, and of course, the most important thing, morality. So I think I'll leave you with that thought. If we align ourselves, we can create a better world. Thank you so much, Swamiji. Thank you.